Well, today we're here to talk about Justin's story and how he came about his product that he's developed that's been recognized recently, how it's evolved over time to become one of the top products in the industry. We also want to learn why SewLong prefers to use RECacril by Recasens as their first choice, and why this new top is so popular in the market segment he serves. I'm Doug Dubay with Recasens USA. I'm their national sales manager. There I am. And today I'm pleased to have with me Justin Jones, the owner of SewLong Custom Covers. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we're glad to have you. Before we move to the next slide, you can see on this slide there's a little red box on the bottom of the screen there that says chat. And if you have any questions for us, just click on that button and type out a little answer and hit enter, and it'll pop up on my window. And when we get towards the end of this presentation, we'll review those questions, and hopefully we'll have time to deal with those questions then. Okay, so let's move on to the presentation. Justin, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself, and we're pleased to have you here today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm Justin, the owner of SewLong Custom Covers. We specialize in tournament ski boats or wakeboard and wake surf ski boats, and very specifically in sunshades for those boats, and as it relates to towers. And I think that's what we'll go through today, is kind of the evolution of one of the ideas that I had and where it is today. So.
All right. And Justin, how long have you been at SewLong?
So I've formally owned the business for 20 years. I incorporated in '99, but I kind of grew up in the industry. My dad had an upholstery shop in our backyard growing up, and that's kind of where I learned the trade in general. My dad was more, at the time, was jack of all trades. His name is Jack, and he would do anything for you. He'd do a boat cover, he'd do a boat seat, he'd do a house, you know, a sofa, car seat, whatever. Yeah. But over the years, he's really specialized in kind of more commercial upholstery. I've really specialized in boat covers and boat upholstery and so on. So.
And that takes us to slide 3, your specialty, and you do it well. One of the things I think that drew us to you, Justin, was the uniqueness of your product, and recently you won an award for your Gemini. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can you tell us about that award?
Yeah, this award is the Award of Excellence in the Marine Tops division of our industry. I'm always very humbled and proud when we win one of these awards, especially when it's the Award of Excellence, because the competition is so steep in this industry in general. There's a lot of really great fabricators out there that do top work. So to actually win the award is something really special to me and our team. So. Yeah.
And it really is a global competition now too. It's from fabricators all over the nation, and we even have a good-sized group coming from Australia these years as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's quite an honor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This product though has an interesting backstory. It sort of evolved over time, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Our kind of our hardware in that. I don't know if we're ready to step into the next.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
Yeah, so we years ago when I was kind of first getting into the marine business, I went to one of the industrial fabrics, the expo, the big trade show, and I saw this hinge at one of the booths, and I got one from the show and took it home. And about that same time, these wakeboard towers were becoming really popular on the, the wakeboard with the towboats. And traditionally everybody just simply took a bimini top and kind of squished them, a traditional bimini top, and squished them underneath the tower to get shade. But I just couldn't help myself but think that there's some way to use this tower and build a better, sunshade or bimini top that would utilize that tower as part of the structure, and kind of eliminate all the extra or unnecessary bars. And I don't know why this hinge really sat with me, but it sat on my desk, and I just mulled over it, and then the light bulb finally went on one day to kind of build this rectangular frame. And we'll take you to the next slide. This is the very first one I built. It's actually on my own personal boat because it was the only one that I could talk anybody into letting me actually do it.
Play with, drill holes and do it.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a little bit of a crude installation. We literally just drilled a hole through the framework of the bimini and the tower, and in the back we put a bolt that the top pivots on. In the front, we just put a big quick release pin. And we'll take you to the next slide. I think it shows a little bit closer up version of this. You can kind of see the two bolts there, the bolt and the pin on the side.
Yeah.
And the next slide here shows kind of how the top folds up and stows on the back of the tower. So you can kind of see that hinge, not very well, and we got a slide here in a minute that'll show better, but that hinge actually connects those two pieces of framework and allows it to fold flat onto itself, and then the rear bolt allows it to rotate around. And I still remember taking this boat, hooking it on my truck after I got this built, and driving around to our local boat dealers to show them kind of this new invention I had and how it worked. And it was reasonably successful. I think the next slide here shows one of the ones I built for a local boat dealer, kind of soon thereafter. Again, I was still kind of crude installation. I had to cut and fabricate these little spacers to accommodate for the tower widths, but we were still drilling and bolting them through, which didn't allow me to really box a top up and ship it out because it made the installation portion really difficult. So
it was a little dicey for a consumer to install themselves.
Exactly, very dicey for a consumer, and even to a local boat dealer. I had to go do all the installs myself. The next slide here, I think, shows that was kind of my first iteration of hardware that we started manufacturing. So again, this vision where I've got this top, and the top works great, but I didn't really like the way it installed onto the towers. So this was the first kind of clamping system I came up with, and it was a pretty universal clamping system to accommodate for the different widths of towers and how it really worked, and allowed this top to kind of fold through the boat. And I don't know if you can see in this photo, there's a locking sleeve that covers that hinge and holds that top out nice and flat and straight. The next photo shows kind of the top in the partially collapsed position, and again, you can see that hinge there and kind of how it allows that top to pivot, fold in half and then pivot around.
Yeah, that's a good view of the hinge.
Yeah. The next slide, I believe, is our kind of the first iteration. So this particular wakeboard tower, again, at the beginning of the boat evolution, or the tower evolution, if you will, towers were changing year after year, and everybody's coming out with a new idea for towers. So this tower came out on the Malibu, and we couldn't put that, what we originally called a trampoline, that looked like a trampoline, so we called it our folding trampoline top. But it didn't work in this tower because the way the front legs come together. So, and I had a customer that really wanted us to build him a top, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I can just put everything on the outside and make it fold over backwards. So we tried it. This was the first version of that. Again, because it was an experiment, we kind of went back to the old drill method. I think the next photo shows a little bit closer up of how the hardware. We just used traditional marine hardware that you buy at the marine supply store, and tubing and folded it up. So and it proved to be quite successful. And actually after we built a few, and we still were trying to sell the trampoline because we thought the trampoline was better. But after we really started using what we now call our folding canopy top, this model where it goes on the outside, there was a lot of benefits. We could build it bigger and longer because we didn't have to have the clearance of it going through the inside of the boat. So there was a lot of advantages kind of going over the top. You get headroom, you know. So next photo here is that same top just folded up and stowed in the back. So that's another thing we kind of discovered. We didn't necessarily need that locking sleeve. And so the next slide will show kind of a new version, and we kind of went away from that original hinge that I was using because it was a plastic hinge and every now and then they break. So we liked everything to be metal. And because the rear frame was rigid, we didn't need that locking sleeve to hold it in place anymore. So, so we went to a new hinge. This also is the first version of what we call our folding canopy hardware. That kind of triangle bracket in the back was a part that we had manufactured, again, with my vision of being able to either take a boat top to a boat dealer or ship it out to a consumer or something. I wanted to have hardware that allowed the consumer to install it and be a little more forgiving and not having to drill holes, and if you drill a hole in the wrong place.
So that custom piece of hardware is that white triangular plate, right?
Exactly, the triangular plate. And if you notice, it has a kind of a series of holes, and we kept experimenting over the years with the holes because we wanted that plate to be as universal as we could and fit on as many different towers. Because again, we still are a small shop. So investing our money into hardware, we need that hardware to be as universal as possible so that we can, you know, use it on as many different boats as we can.
Yep, makes sense.
The next slide here is kind of the second version of that hardware. This is, again, I don't know if you noticed that the tower designs have changed. Again, year after year, the towers keep changing and changing and changing.
Yeah.
So we were still building this. This was what we now call our fin, and we still use this on a lot of universal tops that we build, custom one-off tops. But this particular tower, we were doing a lot of tops for the Nautique brand here. And one thing we didn't like is we didn't like these really big, long struts that went down and hooked to the tower, because when the top folds up, they kind of stuck out like daggers, if you will.
Yeah.
And so it worked well, but it just, again, towers changing, everything's changing. We decided to kind of take a step up. And the next slide shows our first iteration of what we call our folding canopy, or FCT V3, or version 3 hardware. And I think the next slide actually shows a little bit better close-up of that hardware specifically. So the vision was I would build this kind of tubing assembly out of aluminum and kind of incorporate the strut that holds the top out into place, and then that strut nests up inside that front tube, and it all folds back like we traditionally have. And so that's it. You know, there was a lot of advantages to going to this system, shipping and everything else. So
there's some really nice clean lines to that as well, and the fit and finish.
Yeah, thank you.
And that side bracket too, it has nice lines to it, and it doesn't have as many holes as the older version did.
Yeah, so these versions, our version 3 is very boat/tower specific. So we make hardware specific to a tower or a brand, and it really only works on that one. I think the next slide shows the same top folded up, so you can see that strut that was formerly holding that top open and in place now is nested nicely inside that tubing assembly.
Nice.
So it looks a lot neater and cleaner, you know, on the boat there when it's in the folded position.
Yeah, that looks great.
So the next slide, here is the top that we won the award for. Another thing we've experimented a lot with is the surf pockets. We were doing black, but the problem was that a lot of these guys were going down to the desert Southwest and leaving their boards out there, and it was getting a little hot. So we had to switch over to, that's why we have silver surf pockets on this one, to kind of reduce the heat, you know, from the sun on the boards.
Interesting.
Yeah, but this top has that hardware. I believe the next photo shows that hardware closer up. And so kind of the same principle. Again, that top, what we call our tube assembly, that top round bar that we have manufactured, that is universal amongst all boats. But as you mentioned a moment ago, Doug, that these plates or these mounting brackets are very specific to the boat. So we have a lot of that top piece manufactured in bulk, if you will, and then we order the brackets and the clamps to mount to each specific boat tower, you know, in smaller quantities.
Okay. And we're going to be getting into it here soon, but part of being able to offer those custom brackets and everything has to do with your 3D CAD capabilities in-house.
Yeah. We I don't know, our next slide here. Oh, there's the top from the award that we won. So yeah, the next slide. Yeah, the 3D CAD, that's really helped us evolve or develop our hardware. This is a drawing that I actually did myself. We used to have to hire somebody to do the drawings, but with kind of the evolution of CAD in our industry in general, our CAD skills have gotten much better. So I've been able to do a lot of these hardware drawings myself. The next slide, I think, shows the actual parts that we 3D printed. So the brown and the two black pieces are 3D printed prototypes, and the aluminum piece or the silver aluminum piece is one that we actually had fabricated. So
you're doing this 3D printing in-house?
Yeah.
You got your own printer?
Yeah, we hired a local company to do it for us, and after about $800, I started looking into them, and I'm like, man, I can buy my own machine for $500, and it really was a lot easier than I had anticipated. So, man, a $500 printer, and
yeah,
and there's the parts.
You were already doing the hard part, the CAD designed on the computer. The printing was probably the easy part.
That's exactly it. Yeah, the 3D printing is truly really the easiest part. That's a matter of clicking the go button. It's getting the file into the computer, making the dream come into a model. That's the hard part. So I think the next couple of slides show there's a clamp that was actually a clamp I had someone else draw. The next slide, I think, shows the 3D printed parts in it and the real part. Actually, the yellow and green were one of the parts that we outsourced. Those were before I got my own printer. I had those parts printed. And then,
you found this process to be really reliable. The prototype with the digital printer comes out pretty much identical to the production piece.
It really does, and that's where I vividly remember this clamp similar to this one. When we were doing these tops, I had a machine shop before we went to the 3D printing. I had a machine shop make a couple of prototypes, and it was like $1,200 or $1,500. And we took them, put them on the boat, and realized or verified that the angle on the end of that clamp was a few degrees off. And we literally took those $1,500 of the parts and threw them in the garbage and started over. And now I can do it with a 3D printer. It takes half a day or a day to print these parts, but the material is super cheap. It's just time, and I can honestly print a part faster than a machine shop can build them. And then once we've got the fit and verify, and that's what this 3D printing is good for, is to verify angles and fit. Then we send it out to the machine shops to build an actual part.
And those machine shops, given your CAD drawings and everything, they can cut them in small quantities, which allows you to provide those side brackets and unique things for each boat model. Without putting in huge inventories on your part.
That's one of our challenges, is the inventory of all this hardware. It does add up, but yeah, we definitely do it in smaller chunks, if you will.
Smaller batches.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, it's not just all about the hardware, though. It's also fabric covering the thing, and we're very proud that you guys are using RECacril on those tops.
Yeah.
And, you have any comments about why you chose RECacril?
Really, it was again, we really briefly mentioned the Marine Fabricators Association. Great group of guys and gals, and these meetings that we go to, the annual meetings, people share so much great information. And we were
do.
talking to a fellow fabricator who was using the product and really kind of helped sell it to us. And that's what really kind of gave us our start in it. But he's like, if you hold up a piece of RECacril up to the sun and others, you can see that there's not as much light coming through it. So it's a tighter weave, and that was probably one of the biggest things. And then the other thing that we love about it is it lays really flat when we're going to plot it and cut it, and it has a little bit stiffer hands. My sewers may not like it as much, but pretty much everybody else does.
That's right. That's sort of a consequence or a price you have to pay for getting a tightly woven fabric. But you're spot on, Justin. There's a lot of acrylics out there, and we all know the name brand, but they all start with an acrylic fiber. But Recasens, we construct our fabric a little differently, using a slightly smaller yarn, but then we pack it much tighter together. And like you said, that eliminates a lot of those pinholes you see, but a lot of the body of the fabric comes from the actual tight weave of the fabric rather than relying on starches and resins to stiffen up the fabric later that eventually wear off and the fabric gets soft again on you.
Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely noticed that. That's a great quality of it. So one of the reasons.
I guess the other key thing is we have a different finishing range that's set up specifically for the awning and marine fabrics rather than casual furniture and a wide range of fabrics, so that, like you said, it gives you a much more consistent hand. It does give you a bit firmer hand, but a lot of that comes from the weave. And the way it goes through the range, it heat sets it better so that it keeps its shape over time and over different weather conditions better than others, and lays perfectly flat, which is becoming more and more important for these people that have these computerized plotter cutting tables. You don't want that knife getting hung up on a fabric that's rippling, waving, or bowing on the table.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we certainly appreciate you using RECacril on your fabrics.
Yeah.
Let's see, if we go to the next slide, there's your team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, you were saying, Justin, marine fabricators, they really get an inspiration from each other. And that's one of the main things I love about this market and the MFA, is how open people are with each other. And I'm sure many are going to appreciate you sharing in this webinar today as they log on and check this out. But as we come to the end of this thing, what do you think, what inspiration or what do you think other fabricators can learn from your process of developing this product over time and your experience with developing this unique bimini?
You know, it's persistence and kind of finding your groove or your niche. You know, again, I had a personal passion for wakeboarding and water skiing and boating and that. And so I kind of put my work skills that my dad had taught me in the upholstery industry and sewing industry, and put the two together and really focused on what I thought was what is our niche of kind of boats specifically. We have a lot of friends in the industry, which has really helped us get our foot in the door. And I think just, again, year after year, we've you know, saw the evolution of a tower. Things have changed. And we didn't give up. We tackled it again. Not only did we tackle the new tower designs, but we also sought ways to improve what we were doing anyway. So
yeah,
each time a new tower came out, we tried to not only accommodate that new tower, but also improve what we had been doing. So.
Gotcha. You know, over the years, you've gone through a lot. You've got your team in front of you there. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in business?
Labor, for sure. My team, I actually love seeing this photo because we took this photo about a year ago. and that's my exact same team I have in place.
Great.
And I'm not sure in all 20 years of business I've done that. Maybe in the early days, I had a gentleman who worked for me for about almost 15 years. He worked with me for a long time, but we definitely had our revolving door of teammates. And in reflection, I know that was a big part of that was my own self. So I've really focused and working on making sure my team feels appreciated, and because they are. This team in front of us here is awesome. So that's been one of my challenges, is really making sure that I've got a good team in place, and I recognize that and take care of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've come a long way, but time keeps clicking on by. Do you have any vision for the future of our industry?
I think that in my opinion, the industry is kind of on track, or it's the CAD and technology is definitely the direction it's going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what's happening, I think it kind of happened in other industries as well, the sail industry and the sail making industry, is fewer shops are doing more work because fewer shops are incorporating technology in their business, and so it allows those shops to be more effective and more efficient. And so I think in years gone by, there was a mom and pop's boat cover shop. People like my dad who would do a boat cover today and a sofa tomorrow. Those kind of shops, the one-man bands are kind of going by the wayside, and shops like ours or these other shops around the country are focusing on technology. They're buying cutting tables. They're implementing, data management solutions. They're doing a lot of things so that they can really produce a lot more than a typical shop did in years gone by.
Okay, so it's just because it's automated doesn't mean that it's not highly customized, because in the aftermarket, it seems like every project's almost unique,
Yeah, it really is. Again, in our niche specifically, it's very customized. We still, at least half the products we produce are kind of a custom one-off.
Yeah.
The other half are, we're reproducing these tops that we manufacture. We're definitely moving towards the higher production. We like that, but Clint here in the photo, one of my guys, we all still love the challenge of a new project, a new boat rolling into our shop, and seeing some new thing on the boat and having to overcome that challenge. It's very rewarding and gratifying. So we don't ever want to lose that, but we're definitely moving more towards the production side.
Okay. Well, Justin, I think that's about what we got for today. We're to our last slides here. Thank you very much for joining us today. Justin, I think we've all learned a lot, and want to congratulate you again on your big award. It's well deserved.
Thank you. I
If
appreciate
anybody has questions for Justin after this webinar, I think we're going to post his contact information. And is it okay for them to reach out to you, Justin?
Yeah, by all means, feel free to call or email or send a smoke signal if you need to.
Okay. And, here at Recasens USA, my contact information is on our website, recasensusa.com, but it's right there in front of you as well. So thanks to everybody, and especially Justin, for participating in this inaugural event of our webinar. And hopefully we'll do another one of these real soon.